I forgot what I say. What up, my fellow Survivor lovers? Welcome to the Survivor Historian, part of the Challenge Historian podcast feed. I am your host and born again Survivor superfan, Jacob Hollabaugh, and with me, as he is every week, is our resident Survivor historian. Almost said challenge there. I'm one of these weeks I'll actually nail whatever this intro is that I'm coming up with. It's the great and powerful Tony Lance. Tony, how are you doing this week?
I'm not doing too bad at all. How about you?
I'm great. We are here on a Sunday
Yep.
because it took me until Sunday to watch Survivor this week, which was not an ideal scenario, but it is the scenario I created for myself. So we're here on the weekend, which because I also didn't watch until today, I have not used the extra time to like listen to any of the podcasts or anything. So have you gotten some extra knowledge in via any of the Survivor pods or anything that
No, I realized as I was watching the episode to take notes, because I wasn't sure 100% when we were doing it, and also Sarah fell asleep 15 minutes into it when we watched it on Wednesday because she had done parent teacher. Um, I was sort of waiting to watch it with her and then still ended up watching it by myself. So because of that, for whatever reason, I was like, well, if I'm not watching it, then I obviously can't listen to podcasts in the downtime. Um, so
Well, I'm
yeah,
sure
I
Jeff didn't say anything interesting on his podcast or anyone else said anything interesting on theirs. All the
no,
interesting commentary is going to be here on this podcast by the two of us because
exactly.
I I get mad every time I listen to the On Fire and Jeff continually says the only official Survivor podcast. I'm just like, okay, yeah, the only one kind of with people from like Survivor, but also like other Survivor cast members host podcasts. Don't they get to be, aren't they official enough for you?
No,
Tyson played
he
5
needs to
seasons or whatever.
differentiate.
Is it not official enough for you? We really like the show, Jeff. Are we not official? Like, come on, is this not real? Is this not happening right now? Am I imagining this? So that always, I'm always just in a joking way, but
Well, yeah, it's
okay.
also like we get it. You want to make sure that everybody knows that our HAP is not an official challenge pod or Survivor podcast and that you're the only one that's done by CBS. We get it. It's the same way that you came out against casting for with Adam Klein. Like
Oh yeah, I saw that. Jeff's been, well, I'll bring this up later, but Jeff's been he's definitely online for sure.
mm,
I kind of always thought he was maybe one that avoided a little bit of the online chatter around his show, but he's definitely online, and that was one recent example of clearly he's well aware of what's happening out here. But before we get to actually what's happening in episode 5 of Survivor, quick couple programming reminders for you. We are, of course, over on the challenge side of the ledger, our deep 2 episodes, even though they only call it one, but 2 episodes into the brand new season 39, Battle for a New Champion, BFANK, as I'm affectionately calling it. So that recap went up this week, and the season preview went up as well. And so make sure to check that out if you're watching the challenge. USA 2 full season recap and awards also went up earlier at the beginning of this past week. So if you haven't checked that out, do so there. What do we got going on challenge fandom last week, this upcoming week, Tony?
we did a breakdown of USA 2 with like the finale with Danny from
Oh, I
USA
saw that.
1
Yeah, I
and
haven't listened to
Worlds.
that yet. Yeah.
It was a lot of fun. It was great because at one point we had like a slight technical difficulty where we had about like 5 minutes where we weren't recording, and it was me and Josh and Danny, and I immediately was like, thoughts on 45. And we had like a very quick Survivor chat, and then we went back to what we were supposed to be talking about. And then other than that, we're pretty much like you. We're just banging through season 39. We are way into it now. We've had both a cast breakdown, and we mentioned that there was an episode 0, and our episode 1, as of us recording right now, came out I think about like half an hour, 45 minutes ago. And then the YouTube one will be coming up, as Karina said, as soon as it decides to. Um,
Yeah, good old YouTube. They require the best internet in the world to upload to YouTube, even the most simple videos. I know they're long videos, but they're
yeah.
very simple. Not the biggest file size in the world. Anyway, so that's what we've got going on. Thanks as always for being here. Agenda for this particular podcast covering episode 5 of Survivor 45. We'll stick to the same walk through the episode, hit all the big storylines that we've been doing, hand out the awards, do some power rankings and some predictions. And at the very end, the predictions will be mixed with some thoughts on what we see the big change in the game that is coming next week with the merge or potential merge, which we will discuss. But for now, let's get into it. Survivor 45, episode 5. Here we go. We will start. We'll do same kind of format of walking through the episode we've done the last week or two. We'll go one tribe at a time and we'll save Bello in this case for the end and cover all of Bello at once, since they are the ones that obviously end up at the tribal council. So let's talk first. Reba, night 9, day 10, everything pre-challenge from Reba. The episode kicks off with, this is going to be a common refrain throughout this about this episode, but the camera work and the editing is just so good on Survivor.
Yeah.
And this opening scene, which isn't usually always, I don't know, it feels like it should be interesting almost every time because, they're coming back from a vote and someone's not there and someone's feelings are hurt or whatever. And it's usually like not always that. There's not like always anything going on, or as often as you would maybe think, given the circumstances, something would be interesting. This one was really good, really interesting. Sifu obviously wanting to know who voted for him. And I just thought the way they shot it, how perfectly they had everyone sitting with Sifu kind of at the end, like looking at everyone just stone faced, stone faced. They don't put any music, don't put anything, just keep it like silent. I thought it was incredibly well made from the production side, but it was also a very compelling scene. And I thought Sifu handled it well and kind of differently than I expected from him, of like how kind of calm while also being sinister and like, y'all fucked with me. Like, I'm gonna play the game now kind of attitude he had. How were you feeling about the opening scene and the iciness and the lying that was going on between the three women and Sifu?
The line was hilarious because and everybody was staring straight ahead, whereas like you said, Sifu was on that angle where you could see everyone. No one was making eye contact with him or with anyone else. And everybody was just like, nah, I voted Sean. And that was it. And then Sifu like tries to dig a bit deeper. He's like, I voted for Sean with a smiley face, as if to identify which vote was his. And they were just like, I also voted for Sean. And then provide no context. And him being like, it was weird because there were moments where he almost looked like he believed that the three of them voted for Sean and not him. But then I'm like, that doesn't actually make sense, dude. There's still an extra vote that either went to you or to D, which means one of these people here 100% wrote your name down, potentially.
Yeah,
But
the only part I thought he executed really well, except for the one poke, because he was being very gentle about how he poked, which was really
yeah,
smart, I thought. But the one spot he doesn't poke that I think he should have is he tells them, Sean told me he didn't vote for me, and they're all, like, nope, we voted for Sean, and they kind of come to the conclusion that Sean lied to him, but he doesn't then poke to say, okay, well, if Sean did vote for me and lied to me,
who voted for
which one
D?
of you voted for D? Like, that's
Yeah.
juicy. Or like maybe not in that moment, but like in the individual moments later that he has, which maybe he did, maybe we just didn't see it, but I think they would have shown us that. But that was the one little poke that I would have thought he would do, is like, well, if we're gonna convince Seafood that Sean did vote for me and that was the lie that I'm being told was the guy that left,
Yeah.
I would love to know which one of you was out of, even though he wanted to quit, which one of you was going against your own alliance? Was it like a safety thing? Like what, someone. And so I would have liked to see him ask that one-on-one, but D is just bold-faced lying. The other two, I thought kind of were waiting for D to fess up because
Yeah.
they like it. They're the first two to say, I think Julie goes first, maybe, or no, Jay Maya does, but is like, yeah, like I voted for Sean, and then Julie's like slowly kind of like, okay, I guess we're gonna like reveal our votes. And she says she voted for Sean, and it felt like they were waiting for D to be like, it was me.
Yeah.
And D's just the most cold of all of them, of like, I voted for Sean.
Yeah.
No, yeah, I swear I voted for Sean. And just it's like, I don't want to talk about it. I voted for Sean. I don't want to talk about it. I voted for Sean. And yeah. So they're not starting the episode on the right foot. And then the next time we see them, Sifu obviously feeling on the outs. You
Yep.
think knows at this point, they all think I have an idol, which I don't. It would be cool if I did, but I don't. It would be so cool if I did that I'm going to make a fake one. And he has been making over the course, we see a little montage of him over the course of a day or two. He makes a fake idol that is full necklace size, has a lot going on with it. How would you grade Sifu's fake idol skills?
It's more convincing than a stick. It is less convincing than most other idols. And what threw me off the most was actually like the bit of like fabric that was on there, that like
The one he took
because it was red.
from the sign or whatever.
Yeah, because when I didn't, it's a, the funny thing is like I was like, when did have they ever put fabric on an immunity necklace? And then you flash forward way into the episode, and every one of the amulets has like fabric on it that's of the tribe color. And I was like, fair play, Sir Robert. But as far as immunity idols go, immunity necklaces go, I don't remember ever seeing fabric. And then that looked fabricated at that point without it, beads and shells and shit. Like, totally.
It was so big though. That was
Yeah.
the thing to me, which you tell me if I'm wrong, but they're never that big.
So the very
I mean, it was
first,
it was a necklace size, but like a necklace that goes halfway down your chest size, like not a choker, like like
no,
a full blown like necklace, big dangly necklace. And I'm just like, dude, they're not like that's way too big. Like, good on you for all that effort and finding all the materials, but that's way too big. I'm not. Yes, it's above a stick, as you say. That
yeah,
definitely, and it doesn't fall apart. I forget whose that
no,
was last season, but that
yeah,
the
I remember
I
that.
forget his name, but that hands jam the fake idol, and it literally
Josh.
falls. Yeah, Josh, and
Yeah.
it literally fell apart in Jam's hands. And he's like, I held it. I didn't I didn't do anything. So it doesn't fall apart that we've seen yet. So, but after that, yeah, that's about as good as it gets. I would.
Yeah.
He gets a passing grade. He doesn't fail the test, but it's like a D for sure. Like
Yeah.
you might not make the next grade still. You might need to still redo the
No, and that's
project.
not a, like that's an F in home ec, but it's a D in like other courses.
Yeah, yeah. The teacher's like, oh, I don't really want to see you again next year. So like you can go on, but I'm gonna send a note to the next group. Like we need to get this going well. So they're all at odds. And then it seems obvious, three women are still just gonna be against Sifu. And if they weren't so convinced that he has an idol, which it's getting a little. I know in the modern era, and they've all watched these shows, and there's so many advantages and everything. I get why they're all convinced that everyone has everything at every time.
Yeah.
But this episode was the moment of the season where pretty much everyone is convinced everyone else has something that they don't. And this tribe is the worst of it, of like, they're like, Sifu has to have an idol. He went looking for an idol a couple of times. He obviously has
Yeah.
one. It's like, okay, sure. But you three have the easy vote. But they decide a two-part plan unfolds that makes no sense to me.
Yeah.
Tell me if I'm wrong. J Maya offers to say it was her that voted for Sifu if it comes to this. We actually don't. I don't know if we'll see any of this play out next week or in the merge, whatever. It doesn't end up coming to it, but they discuss if we end up at tribal. J Maya says, I voted for you. I thought I was on the bottom. I still think I'm on the bottom. And in doing so, that would convince Sifu he's safe,
Yeah.
which that was all of that plan. I don't understand how that convinces Sifu he's safe and to not play an idol that he doesn't have. But to them, they were like, that'll work. That'll do the trick. And then Julie and D are like, you know what? Maybe we just vote out Jay Maya instead. So while it ultimately doesn't matter where, or at least in this episode, again, the relationships matter moving
Yeah.
forward. How do you feel about Julie and D both coming to the like, maybe we should keep Sifu around? And how do you feel about their idea that if J Maya just says it was her vote, that somehow Sifu feels safe? How do you feel about any of this strategizing that isn't making a lot of sense on my end?
I appreciate the I appreciate D's like process of just, you know what? If we're already going to say that it's Jay, maybe we get rid of Jay because she's going to be she's kind of on the bottom. She doesn't really have an alliance. And initially it was weird because when they were the four, and then it was like Jay and Sifu are obviously together. But now it's like they don't have anyone. Like, okay, well, that's fine then. But as far as Jay Maya saying that like she'll fess up to it and say like, it was a Hail Mary. I was on the bottom. I'm still on the bottom. I thought that they were voting. I guess she could say I thought they were voting me, so I voted you. Um, I, I guess like it's gonna work as well as any other plan. The one that I'm the most confused about is how the everybody is saying that old Bello is like going to run this game when they hit merge, but they have the exact same members numbers as old Reba because so far only Lulu has gone home no matter what tribe goes to tribal council. So that's the one that I don't understand this episode. I almost gave this section a pass because I was like, no, the thing that really confuses me is the fact that they can't figure out that old Bello is just as six as old Reba.
Yeah, and also if only they knew that old Bello is a hot mess, which why
Yes.
don't we go ahead and transition to them now?
Let's.
So, Nulu, as you so affectionately dubbed them last week, they're day 10. We have a couple things worth discussing here. We'll get to the hot mess of it all in a minute, but the first thing we get is another scary moment that leads
Yeah.
to, a very heartwarming backstory and a couple interesting things worth discussing, but that's that Jake passes out again, which they're referring to it as he passes out briefly enough to, the first time around they use the word and we use the word, like, did he have a seizure or something? And it's
Yeah.
very similar again, but stands up quickly, passes out for, momentarily. So it does again look like a very momentary seizure of sorts, but that's, I guess, kind of also what it would look like if you pass out and fall down, but like come to as you fall down that quickly. But it's scary
Yeah.
nonetheless. And they have him like sit down, and he gets very upset with himself over the situation because we get to hear this long backstory then of he spent the last couple years of his life, he'd always dealt with weight issues and binge eating issues, and he overcame that in a big way. And we get
Yeah.
the, kind of the photo montage of the major progress he's made on that front. And so he feels in this moment, one, as I think Kellie accurately describes, while Jake never says it, I think she's spot on, that something like this happens, your fear is, am I going to get removed from the game, which
Right.
would be an obvious fear. So I think that's a little bit of what he's kind of upset about. But then the big part is, I've done all this work on my body, and like that was this big obstacle in my life that I've like overcome and got to the place where I felt really confident coming out here. And now my body is letting me down in this like very scary way and everything else. And so he's, kind of upset. And Kellie, who is Kellie, what's her profession? Cause
She's
she,
a nurse.
okay,
Yeah.
she is a nurse. Cause I didn't either know that or remember that. I'm sure I read it when we did the original bios, but I was like, oh, that's nice that she's a nurse, and that would be the number one. I hadn't thought about it before, but number one person I want on my tribe if I'm
Yeah.
in Survivor, just for a little extra safety. I know production's there. They got a great medical team. They're looking after us. They're not going to let me die, but it'd be kind of nice to have a nurse around to give me some random opinions or just make me feel better. That she tries to help him out. We get the full backstory, and yeah, what are your thoughts on everything we learn about Jake here? And do you also, are we concerned they might pull him out of the game, or are they totally down, like casual about like, yeah, he passed out because they're starved
Yeah.
and have nothing in them. And as someone who also, I get lightheaded very easily, especially when not eating. It is my main worry of trying to get cast on Survivor. Is like, I think I actually would have a real, real difficulty. I would pass out maybe
Right.
too often to be able to play. So I like get that it's like as simple as they have no food, no water. He stands up too fast, he passes out. It's fine. He should be allowed to continue the game, and I certainly want him to continue the game. But do you think there is any, like, it is a decision? They have to obviously make a decision. It's not like
Right.
they're sitting back there like, he got up, he's fine. We don't even have to discuss if this is like a thing, or should we send someone out to talk about him? Like, they're making decisions to not go intervene in any way.
Yeah. I think my biggest takeaway from that is if it was a big deal, and I mean, obviously it's a big deal, but like if it was something that was concerned about, then I think that we would have seen both in the first instance and the second, we would have at least seen medical. And the fact that we didn't see medical, this instance is actually the first time that we found out that the rest of the tribe knew because it was only him and Kendra at the beach. initially, and I didn't know if it was something that they were sort of like keeping between themselves, but this was the first instance where somebody said like this is the second time that it's happened. It happened before at camp, sort of thing. As far as like his story, super inspiring. I know that as I have moved to a wider frame, I also do have a wider frame, so that's something that I'm actively working towards. So to see that progress and to see him be able to go out and do that after putting in the work, super inspiring. Like really awesome to see. And I don't think that he has a concern towards medical being called out unless it gets worse or more frequent. Um, because as of right now, it's happened like twice over maybe 4 or 5 days, and excuse me, and with Kelly as a nurse who seems to have kind of like looked him over as best as she can on a beach with nothing and said like, you're good, just chill, drink your water, have a moment, you're good. Like that to me is comforting as well, because I think that we would have seen like Dr. Joe and medical come out if there was like something that was going to play a bigger part later.
Yeah. I wonder, I haven't checked any of that, if any of them have said anything on Twitter or anything, but like I wonder if he did talk to medical and we didn't see it or not. Cause
Yeah,
it would surprise me that the set, now that it's happened twice, that they wouldn't have at least like had a very brief, but like come out, maybe shown a light in his eyes or whatever, be like, okay, yes, we feel pretty good that you stood up too fast and passed out, and
yeah.
that's what this was versus something else is going on, or we should be worried about it happening over and over and over. I don't know.
Well,
But
that's yeah. I expect that medical came out, but the fact that we didn't see it is what I feel that
yeah,
like
it's even
it's
more like
not.
this is enough. This isn't an, it's a
Yeah,
non-issue. Yeah,
because
it's
like
not.
when Bruce hit his head on the beach on day one, medical came out, checked him out, everything like that as soon as he dropped,
Yeah,
and then
that
medical
kind of
came back
alluded
out
to like
again.
this is a real
Yeah,
thing. Yeah,
yeah. So
yeah.
I feel, especially with that contrast as well, I really feel that it's hopeful. And it's also me hoping that Jake doesn't go home for medical
Yeah.
reasons because I like Jake.
Yeah, for sure. And I guess the Bruce element also adds a tiny bit extra of he does have a guy in his tribe who has been medically disqualified from Survivor
Yeah,
before. So it's probably it's already a thought in your head in a
he's a
moment like
constant
that.
reminder.
But it's definitely like Bruce walks up to be like, dude, you're okay. And he's like, Bruce, get the fuck out of my eyesight. I don't
Yeah,
want to think about what happened to you before, because now I'm kind of thinking that could happen to me or anything. I hadn't thought of that element. Yeah, I'd be like, Bruce, do I have to go on tribe with you if this is gonna keep happening? But yeah, so he's thankfully fine, and yeah, incredible incredible work he's put in. I'm always interested, I don't know if anyone's talked about it extensively of former cast members or not, whatever, but I'm very interested because obviously everyone that goes on this show, if you're there for any length of time, and certainly if you're there for a long portion of the game, you lose a lot of weight because you're not
yep,
eating while you're out there, and it just like completely just messes with your dietary system, dietary system, just your whole digestive system, your whole body in general.
yeah,
And I would think that it might, the like reintegration of food into your life is probably a weird process post survivor if you've been
totally.
out there for, if, especially if again, if you're out there for the majority of it, like 10, 20, 30 days, whatever, that like that's a potentially for someone with those issues could be a very difficult step to be
Yeah,
then like the reintegration of it into your life. So I'll be interested to hear more of Jake's story even after, hopefully a long ways after he gets, I don't know if he's going to get eliminated, but I'm also on rooting for him as well, so hopefully he's there for a long time. The one person that they're definitely setting us up to believe is going to be there for a long time is Caleb, because Caleb continues to be the most popular person ever on a beach in Fiji. It seems
yeah,
like everyone loves him. No one is threatened by him so far on this new Lulu tribe, as they kind of were beginning to be on the old Lulu tribe. And we get the little montage of him having great one-on-one
yeah,
relationships with Katura, who he kind of throws a very smart, subtle gameplay thing where like she's very thankful to Caleb that she got caught looking for an idol, but that
yeah,
he like tried to say from the moment he saw her, like give a heads up to try to
yeah,
like give her a shot to make it not look as suspicious. But he's got a relationship with her. They show him and Bruce are tight, him and Jake are tight, but that none of that matters to him because he has one person in his sights that he is not tight with yet, that he needs to be tight with, and that is my girl Kelly, my winner pick, who I am feeling so good about after this episode because everyone loves
Understandable.
her. And he sets his sight on his final objective, his final new number one. He now has number ones in everyone on his tribe, but him and Kelly become they make a little deal, they have a little one-on-one, a little chat, and I think they're both, my read of it they were both being honest in seeing
Yes.
an actual number one, an actual true alliance and strong player in each other. What did you think about this new pairing? And do you feel as if they're both being legit, that this is their actual, who they would like to be their actual top ally?
I think so. Like, I think it's very clear if you're looking at the players, just in general, like across all three tribes, they're two of the strongest, like well-rounded players from all of the edit that we've seen. I really like the pairing. I also really like that Katura said this feels like a show me action when he like gave her the heads up and explained like why he did, because that's so huge. Like you can say yes. You're supposed to say yes every time that somebody tries to do any like make a deal with you or make an alliance with you, and then it's when the rubber meets the road that you actually find out who's with you. And for that moment she was like, yeah, this is a show me action, like he's actually got my back. And that I think was the exact same thing with Kelly, where he's like, look, I know everybody's looking for an idol. Sabaya had it and she went out with it. Like, it's not here
Hmm.
unless they put another one here.
Hmm.
So that's huge because she now knows that she can like pull up, take her foot off the gas a little bit if there's only one. Like if when they went back out, then it got re-put like re-put back in circulation, which sometimes does happen. But at least for the moment, she knows that there was an idol. It's now gone. There's the potential of another one, but the actual one that was there is no longer.
And I would think they should feel pretty safe that one won't be reintroduced because they did the tribe swap. It
Yeah.
means that there is the potential for the three idols that were put out to not all be at their original beach, which would make
Right.
it like, if there was no tribe swap, I would probably be on the like, well, the idol from this beach that is the only one that could have been here left, so they will refill it. But because of the tribe swap, I'd feel pretty certain that like, no, it's not. He doesn't tell her the full details. Maybe he does, and we just only get the little bit of it as
Right.
always. But he does not explain like it was a beware idol, and doesn't give her the full compelling story of how the idol was unearthed in the fire at tribal council. But maybe that's just a story for later to fill them in later on when they're bored, instead of everyone sitting around talking about food as all the other tribes seem to do. The final thing with them, then, as we originally alluded to, we saved the best part for last.
Yes, we
Bruce
did.
Bruce does some bruising. We thought he was getting along better with this tribe, and it was just Katura who was, having a really tough time. And I said last week I thought maybe he had broken her with how much he annoyed her. But we learn he is back to the whole tribe feeling a certain way about
Yeah.
him, kind of ordering everyone around, especially Caleb, which like I get, but like Bruce, you're like kind of like an athletic dude who seems to want to do all the things too. Like Caleb tells him like, Bruce is like, hey, go fishing. Hey, climb that tree and do this. Hey, stop. Why are you not chopping that coconut up? Whatever. And if I'm Caleb, I'm like, I get it that like you would probably look at me and be like, you want me to do a lot of physical stuff around camp, but like I'm looking right back at you like, let's do it together at the minimum.
Yeah.
Like, what are you telling me to do? So Bruce is bruising, and it's getting on everyone's nerves. And Katura has hope again that maybe it's not going to just be me and Bruce. I don't know. Is he on the bottom in your eyes of this
He
tribe?
has to be. Like, because not only like obviously the one that got me was, you want to talk about it or you want to do it, which like you do it. I'm not doing it.
Like, I do
Like,
want to talk about it, Bruce. If you want to
yeah,
start doing it while I talk about it, that's fine.
feel
We could
free.
we could both do this the way we like to, and I'll eventually get to joining in.
Yeah, and then like the one thing that wasn't part of that montage that was actually part of the Jake thing was when he got up, Bruce said, "Are you gonna help or are you gonna lay there like a fat lazy ass?" And I was like, when you watch the confessional and this part of the episode, you may feel bad about a certain word that you just put in there.
Yeah.
Um,
I wondered if this was one moment I didn't have by waiting to watch until Sunday. I
yeah,
didn't know who was going home. Thankfully, I somehow avoided that, even though I was
well
online the
done.
last couple days. But I had seen uh a lot of thoughts shared about how lovely Jake's story was and everything. So I knew that
Right.
was that story, some version of it, the general topic matter of it was coming.
Yeah.
And so when he made that comment, I was like, oh. And then I was like, is this going to be the lead in to like, is Jake about to have a confessional where he's like, he brings this up because maybe this isn't the only time Bruce has said that? Like, I was just had all these
Yeah.
horrible ideas run through my head. Yeah, as you know, I don't think Bruce was not trying to be
Oh, no.
insensitive or
Not at
mean.
all. No.
It definitely though is yeah, I'm sure him watching that back was like, "Ooh, that's no good. That's no good." But yeah, I
No.
don't think there was any ill will involved. I think he was just ordering people around, which is what he does, I
Yeah.
guess.
I like that every time that Bruce does anything, the best part about Bruce doing anything at all is you can guarantee that that means that you're gonna get a confessional from Katura, because that's how it goes. Bruce does a thing, we got to get our local correspondent in Katura to talk about it. And I mean, my line of the night was in that section with Kaleb when he said, "If you can't bend your knee to your enemies, it doesn't matter what you do; they'll see you coming from a mile away."
That is really good. Okay, that's a strong nominee for later. And yeah, so that's Nulu. Bruce is maybe on the bottom. Katura's got some allies. Caleb's and Kellie are just riding high, which are my two favorite people in the cast. So I'm riding high right with them. I
Yep,
hope there's no crash coming in their future. And we'll take it to the immunity challenge now. First things first with the challenge, thoughts on the game or the course itself?
love it. I think it was super cool. They took elements from different challenges again, which I'm really liking. I like that they're not doing beginning to end exact same thing. It's enough variation, and there was a lot of physicality to it. It was a lot of levels, and I thought that it was really well laid out.
I have they done like I thought the little up and down obstacle course thing was so cool and looked
Yeah,
so fun to do. Have they done something
they've
like
done like
that before?
variations of it, but this was this is the first one that I've seen exactly like this one. There have been like some variations of you have to go up the thing to get to a certain point and around and through, but this one was really cool, and I liked it's seemingly inconsequential, but I liked that you had to go and get the first one and then go past the third one to get the second one and then come back down and go over the part where you're supposed to go down to get the third one before you go back through, because it's just varied enough that you could probably trip someone up with it. And like Dee almost got tripped up with it too, because
Mhm.
when she got the second one, she came back down. She wasn't 100% sure where to go, um, which is, I guess, a, a fair indicator that you couldn't see from where you were standing necessarily what anyone was doing.
Yeah, the only person that started yelling was like they Caleb yelled a couple of times, but after he had went through it, so he kind of
Yeah,
off memory was like he wasn't saying anything specific. It was like the top next and then the middle or
yeah,
something. But uh I thought it was super freaking cool and it looked really, really fun. I was a little nervous while watching. One, a lot of Bruce having to duck. So
yep,
that was just making me nervous, and it's going to make me nervous the whole time. It shouldn't, but it just is. But then also the very top, when they're on the top of that ladder and they have to like, all of them are doing like the one leg over
yeah.
to like untie. I was just like, I don't know, they're really high up there, and you've got one dude who's passed out a couple times from standing up too quickly. I'm just a little nervous. Like that's
He
a really
didn't
high
do it,
fall. Yeah, he doesn't isn't up there,
which
which
was
would be
interesting.
better, but regardless, I was just like, could you make those they not have to untie a knot leaning way out over, 30 feet in the air? Like it just it seemed like a tiny bit extra, and I was very nervous, but they all do well. They like everyone on that portion
Yeah,
does well. Like no one is slow. They all kind of pretty impressive the whole way through. Um Caleb is definitely the most impressive again.
of course.
That is becoming it just is it's not becoming, it is reoccurring as for the fifth straight episode at this point between that and then he lines up the game-winning shot and nails it one for one in true in Devon style with the I will ever whenever anyone uses a slingshot now as you know the challenger in me just will only think of Devon and how uncanny good he is at directing those and shooting those himself.
Yeah,
But the only people that if anyone didn't do great because pretty much across the board, they all fly through the obstacle course. They all get the, you know, get the things down with the little pole, and they all eventually no one like misses like 10 shots in a row or anything with the
right.
slingshot. The only ones that maybe go a little slower and ultimately probably cost Bello are Brando is the only one who loses a little ground in the first section, and then Drew loses some ground in the second section as well. And
Yeah,
Bello does end up losing and doesn't really have much of a chance. I think they get like two or three shots off. Like Austin takes
something
two or
like
three
that.
shots and misses, and right as they like switch in a new person to shoot, they've lost. So everyone does great. Brando and Drew, maybe if anyone doesn't do that great, are the two that Bello could blame. Any performances stand out to you either way?
Um, I was surprised that Austin didn't get it to the point that he got somebody else to go up, because he's one of the more like, not that athleticism has much to do with a slingshot, but like he seems to be the type that would be good at this.
Well, I
So it was
wonder if
interesting.
I don't know how hard it is, like how much strength it takes to pull that thing back, but I do think two things happen when you miss a couple times with one of those. One
Yeah,
is like, I'd maybe rather rotate someone in so I'm not the only person who misses here because it does look
fair.
a certain way, fair or not. Even if like you're like in the end, like I only got three shots and like we'd already lost, it doesn't matter. But like it looks away if like, well, you're the only one that took any shots. But
Yeah,
then the other part is like they you know had been doing a bunch of other physical stuff, running around, and then after two or three shots that you might just be like I'm really tired because this is day 10 and I'm not gonna like I'm not focused. I'm not gonna aim well. So like let someone who's been taking a breath
yeah.
take a shot. That those both maybe play into it, but they didn't really have a chance. And so now we get Bello for the first time, or at least four of them there for the first time. It are gonna have to go to tribal council. The most interesting team to lose, certainly, right?
Yes.
Because I think we both maybe said last week they would be the most interesting to lose because they are the tribe that is the most split up and would be, you know, therefore be the most interesting dynamic to see play out.
Well, and like not only that, they're the group that will ensure that every part of or like one part of every tribe has been to tribal, because like Lulu lost until they did the swap, and then Reba lost. So this is the first opportunity for anybody from original Bello to go to tribal.
Yeah.
And then the sort of the outcome of this has the most like lasting effects on the game almost,
Those dominoes
because
pushed down kind
yeah,
of.
exactly. So it's the one, as you said, it's the most interesting to see play out, because it's really Emily in the middle.
Mhm. So they're gonna be heading to tribal, but before they do, we find out that there is going to be a journey. So let's talk about that next. So first things first with the journey is that Reba who won the challenge gets to pick everyone that goes, and they. I don't know that Dee believes that she lost rock paper scissors, but she loses rock paper scissors, or maybe
Yeah.
she thought it was best two out of three. Jay Maya's like, nah, I won. I'm going. Jay Maya is going for them, but then they get to pick from the other tribe. And my question for you, Tony, is they pick Austin from I think picking Kelly was like made sense and you know wasn't a big very
Yeah. It
they're
was
like
for
with the person who
the
sat
reason
out
they
like
said made sense,
that's
yeah.
a nice reason to give to why we're sending her. But the interesting decision they get to make is the tribe that lost is the most interesting to pick, but
Mhm.
then also because they have two people who are their allies and they pick one of them, Austin, to go. So if you're them, do you agree that you should send your ally in that situation on the journey? Or do you think they should have sent someone else to give their two allies, Drew and Austin, the most chance to like work their magic on the beach? from their perspective wanting to, I assume, and they make it pretty clear, like we want Drew and Austin to be safe
Yeah.
still, obviously. Which way do you think is actually the better decision for them to go?
So for starters, I don't think telling everybody there that the reason you're picking Austin is because he's from your original tribe, and then you're hoping to get information from him about the beach that he's currently on before he goes back to tribal council with these people. Slight target on his back there.
Yeah,
Um,
I would be so upset.
that was like, yeah, and he was just like, whatever, and trying to downplay it as much as he possibly could because there's no way to downplay that. My favorite was Emily being like absolutely certain that she was the one that was going to be picked. She was just like there, completely annoyed, knowing that she was going to be the one picked, and then they said Austin, and she was as confused as anyone else. But yeah, totally agree. What makes the absolute most sense, you have to look at that and see two, one. The one is the one that's going to make the difference. Because if we're Reba strong, we have to assume that they're Bello strong, which means we need that swing vote in order to get all of our tribe members back. So you send the person who you think is the best communicator because they're going to be taken out of the equation. They're going to be with you so you can kind of keep an eye on them. But also it means that the person who like isn't as great at communicating is going to be the one that's trying to make that pull for the middle person.
Yeah. They certainly shouldn't have thrown Austin under the bus, which is exactly what they do by
Hard.
saying, like, we want info from him. That is just absurd. I
Yeah.
can't believe they did
Shocking.
that. So they shouldn't have done that. But I think they should have sent Kendra because, and it's
Yeah.
a tough in the moment to read the situation, but as you said, it's 2, 2, and 1. You should throw one of the other two, the opposing two, on the journey to get the lone one, Emily, as much time with Drew and Austin to convert as possible. And then if you're gonna go the next level of it, maybe they're like, would seem like Drew and Austin would have a better chance at ingratiating with Brando over Kendra. And so leave those four on a beach. And then the final level of it would be if they then also were like, send Kendra and J Maya. If there's any way you can help avoid Kendra getting an advantage, do
Do
whatever
it.
that is,
Yeah.
like squander it. Which ultimately would have been something that could have played out, although it wouldn't have mattered because J Maya, as we see, is really into getting the award. So they go to the journey and they've got to hike up a mountain, which I think is really cruel. It seems way too freaking difficult to have to do.
They needed a rope. There was a rope there. So if you need a rope to make this hike, it is too much to do with very little food after a challenge.
Yeah, it's just it's cruel. Are you allowed to say no on a journey? Are you allowed to be like, I don't want whatever's at the end of this. I'm just gonna
Nah,
sit on the
don't care.
beach?
I'm staying the boat.
Yeah, I'm guessing you're not allowed to do
Probably
that.
not.
But I would have definitely asked if I was one of those three, like, I don't want what's ever at the top of this. It's
Yeah.
fucking, I'll take if there's a disadvantage at the top of this, just give it to me here. Whatever. That's fine. I'm just gonna wait for the boat to come back, please and thank you. Because it's not like they got helicoptered out of there. I'm guessing they had to then walk back all the way down to the
Yeah.
water to get to the boat. So that sucks. But they get to the top of the mountain and they get to pick between food or an advantage, which I think is just brilliant and wonderful. And this should be on the table more often. I look forward to them hopefully running this scenario back a few times because I think it's devastating and
Yeah.
amazing to watch. Austin wants the food because he's the only smart one of these three, I guess, as it turns out, because obviously now you know where I stand. I'm eating that food all day long. Or there's an amulet, which we've seen on a recent season, last season or the season before. But
Yeah.
that is the type where everyone gets one. You have to either, if everyone's in the game, you use them together and they get an extra vote between the three of them if they're on a tribe together at some point, which they also, I don't know if they would read into it, but this kind of should signal to them like the merge is really soon. If
Yeah.
we're
Not
gonna
quite
do
as
this
soon
season.
as it was, but like, yeah.
Yeah, but I would assume if I'm one of them, I'm like, well, this they're not going to let us have this and be like, and it's
And
going to be
yeah,
another 4 tribal councils until you even have a shot at this. But if they keep it, one of them goes home, it turns into
steal
I've
the
heard
boat.
a steal a vote, and then if there's only one person left with an amulet, it is a full blown idol. And so Austin wants it, the food. The other two, J Maya really wants the amulet. Kellie is torn and is basically like, I'm not gonna freaking make this decision. Austin, I would say, correctly reads the
Yes.
situation and realizes Kellie kind of wants the amulet too, but doesn't want to say it. And it's going to look bad if I'm the guy who's just like arguing. So he kind of comes around and hims and haws, but then like turns into like, yeah, we should do the amulet. Which one do you want? And do you think did anyone make good and or bad decisions or strategy here?
I think that, well, first off, I agree with Austin, like on all levels of this. Like, the food is what you want in a situation like this because you're either tethering yourself to these other people, but also if those people have an alliance, they're going to tell their alliance what they got, which is then going to paint a bigger target on you because the fewer of them that are in, the bigger the reward. If I think, to me, the only situation that makes sense to take the amulet, because it takes so long to actually be an idol, is if you perceive the other two people to be on the absolute bottom of their tribe and you anticipate it being like a couple of votes before you merge. Because if they're gone before you even hit the beach together, then you've just got an idol. Like, if you're standing there at the challenge and the people who walk in on that tribe are less the person that has the amulet that you have, then you automatically upgraded to a steal a vote at the merge without having to do anything. And then again, if the other person goes home too, then you've got an idol. So food, right call, because it's a level playing field. It gives the three of you a moment to bond and have like those interactions while being on a high of getting the sandwich that looked really good. And you also don't have to play the like the inner mechanics of that. And I think Austin had like a brilliant read on it, and his confessional about, yeah, sure, let's take the amulet that gives us the ability to vote for one person that none of us are going to agree on. Let's do that.
Yeah. Yeah. I just can't. I just felt like it was obvious, and Austin made it obvious and was
Yeah.
just like, there's no danger in this. It's easy. You don't have to lie to the tribe when you get back. It's like a
No
story,
evidence.
yeah, it's just like, yeah, we got to eat, and that's, you might feel a way about I got to eat and you didn't or whatever, but like I also had to climb a mountain first. So, give and
It's
take there.
it's
And
easy to explain away too, because there have been journeys where it's just been, here's food. Like,
mhm.
no advantage today except food. Sit
Well,
and enjoy
and I think
yourselves.
it would be totally easy for them to like eat the sandwich and be
Yeah.
like, and I'm gonna tell my tribe that we had the option and that the one option was like dumb and that I didn't
Yeah.
see the benefit of it and I was fucking hungry. And so we ate the food. Yeah, I don't get why J Maya is so gung ho on it. I know she probably, is still feeling a
Bottom.
little not super secure in her
Yeah.
tribe and everything. But the other thing from Austin that he doesn't bring up, but is probably thinking of is, Kellie might be sitting there like these two people from Reba that,
Yeah.
might work together, but Austin in his head is like, J Maya wasn't a part of my alliance on the old tribe. So like if
But
this
I
was
can't
Dee or
voice that.
Julie, then I would probably be all for it because I would be
Yeah.
like, I'm already locked in with one of these other people. That's not that challenging then to get the third on board or to vote the third one out and then like have a steal a vote that I feel confident the other person will actually be interested in using versus getting me out. So yeah, I'm taking the food every single time and they don't. They take the amulets and they head back to the beach and really quickly because we won't talk about them again otherwise, just to say Austin lies about
Yeah.
his or no, we will talk about them, right? Yeah,
Yeah, because we'll go to their beach.
Austin's on Bello. Yeah, let's talk about Bello. So we'll rewind a little to do all of Bello here, who we had skipped before. So the couple things to note from their day 10 before the challenge. The main one was Kendra tried to eat a worm and it
Yeah.
didn't go very well. Um, I I understand the worms have protein. Worms are a form of sustenance. It's also, I'm guessing that worm is like 12 calories and maybe a quarter of a gram of protein there. Maybe. So if you could find a bunch of worms and you're like, I'm gonna eat 30 worms today, okay. One worm, probably not worth your while unless you're just really interested in like doing some survivor stuff or whatever. Kendra does not succeed in eating the worm. And it is quite funny. I had a good time
Yep.
watching it. Any thoughts on the the attempt at murdering a worm that did not? I don't know if the worm survived or not. That, but
I
it
doubt
probably
it.
could.
I don't know.
It was
It
only in her
looked
mouth slash throat for a few seconds in water. I'm sure it's fine. It's a worm.
it looked mushy when it came out. It looked more mushy than a worm should look. So I don't know if some chewing might have happened, which
Uh,
would be gross. Um,
is it though? That's the only thing I thought of is do you chew or not chew the worm? Because the chewing is the kind of gross, but like, do you want the worm alive
it's gonna
inside
hit
of your
stomach
stomach?
acid.
It's gonna die quickly.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, I'm not
I
gonna feel
like
it squirming around a little bit.
nah. It's the whole like if you eat an apple seed, an apple tree is gonna grow in your belly. I don't I don't think it's gonna be
Oh,
around
that
long
takes a
enough.
long time. A worm
Yeah.
just wiggling a little bit. I'm like, if it takes you 30 seconds to die in there, I just don't want to feel you wiggling. Yeah. Anyways.
I I think my favorite part and what may have actually caused her to be like not doing it was Brando's comment. He's just like that's like 70% protein and 30% poop. But he didn't say the poop until she had started to put it towards her mouth and then she just like stared at him. It's like I'm just joking.
Yep, that will be my nominee for the quote of the episode coming up later. I also really loved that joke. And yeah, so she fails. It's a whole thing. It's quite funny and entertaining. And then also funny, no, not as funny, but entertaining to me was Drew and Brando get some bonding time over their deep, deep love of Pokemon, which Pokemon's kind of having a moment on reality TV right now
Second,
because
yeah,
Kieran on the challenge earlier in the week, or I
the
guess the
same
same
night
night.
at the
Yeah,
same time.
yeah, like a third in the yeah, those confessionals may truly have aired within minutes of each other, maybe seconds of each other.
Yeah.
So yeah, Pokemon having a moment in the reality TV world. Uh got to be a little stereotypical here, made sense. Drew and Brando were super into Pokemon. Kieran was a little bit more
Was
of a like,
surprising.
oh, okay,
Yeah.
okay, cool. And also you're Australia or UK or wherever the hell you're from, because he's now
He's
confused.
Australian.
He is, but he references the UK in that episode, and I was very confused.
Yeah.
That maybe his mom's from there or something. Anyways, we're talking about Survivor. Brando and Drew love Pokemon. They have a huge, I mean, what has to have been a very long discussion because they do the little fast forward
Yeah.
style montage, and like they definitely laid there and talked about Pokemon strategies across different games for like hours on end. And
Emily was riveted.
she did seem very interested. She
Yeah.
was like, I've never played Pokemon, but I'm about to be a master. I'm just gonna lock in all this information that you're giving me, and now I'm just gonna be the best. Um, it's definitely setting us up to think, oh, look at this new relationship, new alliance brewing. And
Yeah.
immediately after the Pokemon conversation, Brando turns to Drew and to Emily and is like, nerds never get very far in these games. Nerds are always like picked off. And I'd be into a nerd alliance. Like, I'd be all about working with you other nerds, which neither of them say anything, but like he does start calling all of them nerds without either of them. It's tough to be the first person to throw a label on a group of people. Um, but Drew, my guy Drew,
Yeah.
always entertaining Drew, comes through with the entertainment and is just like, nah, don't think so. Don't think I want to work with anyone from Bello. Think I'm good. Don't think the nerds should work together at all. And just completely shuts it down. And
Hard.
this, yeah,
Like
like
savagely.
no wiggle room, no room for misinterpretation here. It is a
No.
full stop. No thank you to Brando.
Bello's
Uh,
numbers are a threat.
yeah, how did you feel about this moment? I was kind of shocked.
I yeah.
This doesn't happen often, and I wish it
I
would happen more.
it was shocking how like direct he was about it and just like, yeah, well, sorry to disappoint you. And just like followed it through by being ice cold about the situation. I did find it interesting that he shot it down so hard, but then when they do their scramble later and then he's talking to Emily for their like they do like a secondary back and forth and he's like, yeah, of course I said yes. Why would you say no to anything? You say yes first. And I was like, you didn't say yes like 20 minutes earlier in this episode. You said no very definitively. And
And he
like,
said no. I guess it. at either point, it's just as like shocking or interesting of a game move. But
Yeah.
this is before the challenge and before they know they're going to be going to tribal or whatever. So that adds a different element too. That's like, especially in that realm, I think
Yeah.
you are saying yes to everything, or at least some sort of soft yes. I remember, early in the season, I praised Jake for doing something that I thought everyone should do more of, and no one ever does. When he did I forget who he was talking to,
Talking about Brando.
Kendra, and did the like, yeah, like this is our first conversation, so I'm not like telling you we're like number ones, but like
Yeah.
so far so good, and like did the tepid like yes, but like we're whatever, just kind of did like a half yes sort of
And he
thing
did the
that I
same
feel
with
like
Kaleb too, like
yeah, that
initially.
I feel like never happens, but is the actual honest, like, well, yeah, I'm not like trying to
Yeah.
vote for you right now, but like, I don't know, we're not actually locked in because one time we went to the water well together. This was just a whole nother version of just like, no, we don't even need to do the half hearted yes, which like in his situation, and definitely because they obviously end up losing and going to tribal, would be really nice for the misdirect of having set up and said yes, and then just went to Emily immediately afterwards and said, hey, I said yes, but like I'm not into that idea at all. I am obviously into working with you as we've been discussing,
Yeah.
but like it felt weird to say no in the moment. So like I said yes. So yeah, bold strategy to say the
Bold
least.
strategy. I will also say we are now at, I believe, 7 or 8 mentions of Kendra being a Libra. And we are also at a shocking counter of 2 for Emily being in a conversation about whether or not aliens exist.
She she does pull out her go-to to like read, or no,
She was way
the
more
first, yeah,
receptive.
the one that it was very weird the first time because she was the
Yeah,
one that was like, "No," and
I have
also,
honestly
"Now I'm the
never thought about
outsider
that
of the
before.
tribe." And yeah, now this time she's the one like, "Hey, everyone had a great time on my tribe except for me last time this came up, so I'll throw it out this time with this new tribe and see how it works." I wonder what like Caleb and Sabaya and Sean and everyone else, if they're watching this, is like, Emily, what the hell? What the hell, Emily? Like,
Texting Emily being like, "You did not believe in aliens when we talked about it. What's the deal?"
yeah, did we
But
convince you or are you lying? Because if I
the
convinced you, I need to know.
the funny thing is, it was just as resounding of a yes this time as it was when it was like, so the aliens built the pyramids, right? And they're like, yeah, obviously. And then this time it's like, so aliens exist. And they're like, yeah, clearly.
Yeah, the get together parties for this survivor group, I think would that be a great time. A lot of
Yeah,
wonderful topics would be covered by the entire cast when they get together. So Bello then obviously loses. We covered that. And they come back to the beach, sans Austin for the time being. They decide I think it's Brando or Emily, kind of in unison, throw out, do you guys want to do the chaotic scramble, or would you like to do a professional organized version of this where we all have one-on-ones with everyone
yeah,
and they choose to have the professional organized scramble? Does that I feel like that happens organically
yeah,
basically all of the time now. But it was funny that they like put it forward like, hey, do you guys want to remove a little bit of the stress? We're all going to try to talk to each other. So what if we just actually made it like formal? It just like rotated speed dating, as Brando references, I think very funny later of
yeah.
like, all right, does everyone need a break? Or are we going to do the next round of speed dating? Do you like this style of scramble? And do you like
I
that we've
do.
got to a point in Survivor where it's this like accepted that
Organized.
like, well, this is what you do when you lose a challenge, is everyone just has
Yeah.
one-on-ones.
I think it's good. Like, I mean, everybody knows that's what they're about to do. So they might as well just do it and do it in a way that is truthful to the moment. Like, obviously, truthful to the moment in that they're going to lie to each other, but at least they're going to say, like, yeah, I'll go talk to this person and then we'll just cycle through it. Um, Thinking back to Brando's, like, Nerd Alliance, it was weird that it was 1, 1, and 1. And I think that's where he may have faltered, is it wasn't like, hey, me and you are alike. Let's link up with Austin, who you're already working with, and we can get out X or Y. But instead, it was like Emily and Brando and Drew. So he had to convince almost 2 people of the situation rather than just I will go with you guys in your alliance. And then that's the potential to like take Emily out of the equation altogether by being the swing vote, which may have worked better for him. But as far as the actual conversations, it played out exactly as I thought it was going to. Like the story, because you're doing it so formally, the stories get back to everybody very quickly.
Yeah, it only it should have played out differently because Brando lies, and that's the only he's the only one. I mean, they all eventually lie to someone, but
Yeah,
Brando is the only one that like lies to the person he's trying to work with, more or less,
right.
of like
Yeah,
lies about like who proposed what amongst people he's trying to work with, and gets caught in that slowly but surely after Emily does some very fine detective work, and
yeah.
always going to speak her mind, always going to say what she's actually feeling, because she, to Drew is like, I don't believe you, I need you to convince me that
Convince me.
that first attempt didn't work. I don't believe you,
Yeah.
which was a funny moment. Drew has referenced heart palpitations multiple times. This was the second or third one of those, and I think he had another one at tribal council as he literally
Yes.
grabbed his chest when the first vote was read. Um, but it basically comes down to Drew or Brando. Emily kind of need to pick a side. I think you're spot on that what Brando initially does here in like going to Drew and just saying, I want to be on Team Reba and like we can get Kendra out. That should have been the initial instead
Yeah.
of the Nerd Alliance, because it should be, hey, Drew, you're clearly super tight with Austin. It was the fact that he left out Drew's main ally. It was that why Drew had no interest the first
Right.
time around. And if he went to it as, I'm like you and I'm just trying to be a part of the thing you already have and feel comfortable in, that would work. Maybe have worked much better. Um, I think it was very nice of Drew not to take Brando's shot in the dark, because he could have just taken
Yeah.
that.
He
I don't
could have
know
just
if
taken it.
can you do you get to use it if someone gives you that the way you can if someone gives you an advantage or an idol?
No one's ever given it that freely before, so I'm not 100% sure the mechanics of it. I assume
Well, it's the
it's like
second time
anything
it's
else.
happened this season because
It's
Emily did it.
his. Well, they she gave it to her as like a show of trust,
Yeah, but then she gave it back
and she gave it
afterwards as
back. Yeah.
another show of
Um,
trust, because Emily was like, "Oh, I can't believe she gave it back right away,"
right.
which at that point made me think like, could she have kept it? Could she have used like,
I
do you get
figure
two of
like,
those? Your odds are still the same when you play it, but like, could you play it twice or whatever? I
or
don't
can
know.
you play it twice at a tribal and then you have to get out a
Two
different
shots.
bag?
Yeah.
Yeah, like it depends. I don't know. I don't know. I'm sure that they have a rule for it somewhere because Survivor has like a big old book of rules where there's eventualities for everything. To the point where I think one of the live finales, Jeff actually brought out like a chalkboard and explained because there's a really complicated tribal that went down. I almost want to say that it was on Game Changers, and he brought out a board and he's like, "Look, we actually have a contingency plan for this. This is how it works." But yeah, I assume that it's like anything else. Like if you give it to somebody because um, Austin played Drew's goodwill advantage, so I would assume that you can play somebody else's advantage if they up and like properly give it to you rather than you taking it from them.
Yeah, I just wonder if it is it's in its own category or not. But maybe that's something that Jeff can answer for us one day on the official Survivor podcast, because
Yes.
this unofficial podcast clearly has questions. Um, so yeah, they Drew, is squirming a little bit because of his interactions with Emily. Brando is definitely squirming. The one thing I tried to bring up earlier, and the last thing we can touch on here before we go to tribal, is Austin comes back and lies. And
Yes.
I think he lies pretty poorly. No one reacts to it in the moment, but like it's too much of a story for me that they had to climb a mountain and then did a sweat challenge essentially, and they failed the sweat
Right.
challenge. I don't know. I felt like I wouldn't believe him if I was sitting next to him in that moment, but no one, at least that we know of yet, is feeling that way. Did you agree with his lie in this moment and that he needed to lie?
I agree that he needed a story as to why he didn't have anything. Um, it was smart to use. He basically used a mix of the sweat challenge from 44, where Brandon and Matt had to drag the coconuts. And then he also used an element of the season 41 where they had to carry a bunch of logs up and down. So it was like a variation of, and he had just enough mixture that I think it made sense. It was overly complicated, but I think that it was survivory enough that he would be able to play it off as being like, this is what happened, only if people don't think too much into it. And really, the only person that he has to worry about, all goes well, is going to be Kendra, because Brando's going to go home. He ultimately shows it to Emily, which was like brilliant to for Drew to have the foresight when Austin shares with him to say, look, Emily doesn't really trust me right now because she thinks that I may have said what Brando actually said in voting out Kendra. So we need to solidify her now or we lose her as an ally. And that's what prompted Austin to show Emily and be like, look, 100% honest. He keeps using percentages too about how honest he is.
Yeah,
This
he
time
says
he
he
was
was
90%.
90% honest about this story, and I'm like,
Yeah.
I don't think it was 90. I think your percentage is slightly lower in
Yeah. I think you're like,
actuality, but yeah,
you
like
went on a journey and you climbed up a hill. That's where it stops.
yeah, 50 at best.
Yeah.
Um, yeah, I think you either tell the truth or if you're gonna lie, I honestly think you lie and say you ate the food.
Yeah.
Tell Drew, knowing that you're going to immediately go tell Drew and Emily the truth, and that once you vote out and have figured out from them who they're voting out of Kendra or Brando, immediately after the vote, you like know in your head, I'm then going to tell the truth to the person left. So the lie
Yeah.
is only going to be very short term because again, it would be hard to know if I would feel this way if we don't know that the merge is happening in the next episode and have that hindsight. But
Yeah.
again, I would have thought that one of them would have realized if they're giving us these amulets, the merge is like happening any day now. In that context, you don't want to go into the merge with and immediately have these people that you just lied to find out that you just lied to
Yeah.
them. It will only be the one person again, but it's still isn't great. So
No. And it's easy to say too. Once you vote somebody out and you come back with the other person, you can be like, look, all cards on the table. Wasn't 100% sure on this person. They were saying your name. We wanted to make sure that we got them out. By the way, that's why I didn't tell them about the actual advantage. This is what I got.
yeah, that's how again, but hindsight definitely comes into it. It's always easier
Yes.
for us watching it to say what would have been easier to do. So we head to tribal council. Tribal was the first more boring tribal of the season, or at least the kind of de facto first 2/3 of it, where it's just a bunch of kind of non-answer questions. I thought the only interesting part was that Emily doesn't give a fuck about voting for people. She's they do Drew Drew and maybe Brando talk about like, you make Drew gives the big speech of like, I didn't, he basically, Kendra doesn't like get weird about it, but like he says, like, you make friends with someone and he's telling the story of them becoming friends. And he's like, and then you have to like betray them. And the way he says it, if I'm Kendra, I'm like, wait a minute, are you about to vote for me? And like, she doesn't
Yeah.
see that at all. But Emily's response to that of like, Jeff, I would like to say something. It's actually pretty easy just to vote for the person. Like, I don't care if we're friends. And I'm just like, God, she just continues to be the best.
She sat in the same spot tribal too, eh?
Yeah, the middle. Well, it's the best. You want to sit in the middle. The middle back is the best spot to sit because you can see everyone.
Yeah.
She's in the middle front, I believe,
Yes, she is.
in this alignment. But yeah, she definitely wants to not be on the end. You don't want to be on the front row on either end is definitely the worst place to be and the hardest to keep up with what possibly could be happening around you. I always do they have assigned seats when they walk in? Is there
I
a
believe they
process
sort
to
of,
choose?
yeah, they sort of put them in some semblance of an order. I think it was Elaine on season 39 that she talked about how it absolutely sucked being in the front row because in the back row you can like whisper to one another while things are going on. You can still have those conversations and effectively still play the game while questions are being asked and answered. But in the front row, you try and do anything and everybody behind you can see it. So because traditionally it's sort of height based too, right? So because predominantly women are shorter than the men, the women tend to be in the front, the men tend to be in the back. So the men are still able to play the game, whereas the women are no longer able to, based on like basically you can
Yeah.
see everything that happens, which was something I never really thought of until she mentioned it, and now it's all I can think of when I see things go down. Because in the like you'll see people whispering in the back, and like people in the front can't do that.
Yeah, or just like the it doesn't happen super often, but like you can like tap the person next to you, like reach out or like do stuff with
Yeah,
your hands that you just can't do that in the front row. And in the back, you could you know, if you're the back two right people, you
yeah,
could communicate with each other through kind of like little nods or hand signals with no one picking up on it except for Jeff if he wants to call it
call you
out.
out.
So yeah, Emily doesn't give a fuck, which is great and I love it. And there's not much interesting said. We head to the vote, and the big question is going to be: is Austin going to use? How is he going to use, if at all, any of his advantages? He chooses to extend his idol, meaning give up his vote to extend his idol to. I forget what the next phase is. Just
It's
because this is the
it's
first
so
time.
that everyone is on the same beach.
Oh yeah, so he is gonna get this is gonna backfire potentially on him, not actually extend it that long unless he
Yeah,
again does it again, but then uses the goodwill advantage on top of it. I think I might be in the minority on this one, and maybe we disagree. I don't I would have rather him used his idol or not used any given up his vote and just not voted than use the goodwill. I think the goodwill advantage is its most powerful to like have on you in case you come across a journey or a beware in the future where like it gives you the freedom to take the risk that everyone out like that takes the risk out of what might come in the future versus the current moment. It's probably the safest smart play for him to just like, I'm going to extend an idol and I still have an idol and, you know, whatnot. And I actually used the thing and got some small
yeah.
advantage out of it. And it obviously, you know, the vote would have tied without him doing this. So, in hindsight, it effectively worked to get the person out they wanted to. But I was hoping and kind of thought if I was him, I probably would have I probably would have maybe just used the idol, although I bet Drew would have been pissed if he just used the idol, wasted the idol like that. Or maybe use the idol on Drew, maybe
Yeah,
possibly. But that I guess now I'm second guessing myself because if he does that, that like gives away their
shows
alliance, even though it's already known.
and it
I don't know.
shows that you don't trust Emily.
Yeah. Yeah, you're right. Yeah, I think I'm wrong. Yeah, I think I've talked this out and I am wrong. So
Perfect,
he's right.
because I was gonna go against you on it, so now I don't have to.
Well, yeah, you put the final nail in there at the end. Yeah. Yeah, he's correct. And they vote out Brando. And do we think Emily chose the right side in the end? Because it really did ultimately, as it kind of always was set up to do, it came down to Emily. Which side did
Yep,
she want to go with? And she ultimately decided she believed Drew and trusted Drew and Austin and wanted to be with them. Do you think she chose the right side?
I think she did, but I think that she gets bonus points for figuring it out in game. As an outsider, it makes super sense because you've got a tight four in the Reba four that you
Have
are
they filled
now.
her in on that?
I think they've said that D like that they were close with D and Julie.
I think
I
they did
think
right that
I think
first
when they
time.
were trying to like win her over initially.
Yeah.
Um so I mean that's five. And the only thing that's kind of wonky is, and like obviously Bello, we know Bello is like sort of fractured in that they're not really all working together. And especially now, like, because I guess Jake and yeah, everyone's sort of a free agent now in Bello. There's not really any strong connections other than like Kelly and Katura. Like everybody, like Kendra and Brando talked the least, and they had to be in an alliance, and that didn't work. And the four that are there are sort of all working independently with Caleb. So I guess what's going to be interesting is when they hit the merge, it's pretty much the Reba four and Emily, and then Caleb's relationships on Bello, and then it becomes a matter of are Emily and Caleb able to come together again and be the swing vote between the two factions, or is it going to be the Reba 4, the Lulu 2, and like a Jake or a Katura or a Kelly or however that works, because I anticipate Kendra and Bruce and J Maya and Sifu becoming casualties quite quickly of the merge, whereas the rest of them, I see them having enough connections to stay in it and to sort of have like a mutually assured destruction sort of thing going on, where those are the four that can be taken out without impacting the core alliances within.
Hmm. I think I mostly agree with that. I'm fascinated to find out if Kendra and Sifu really like each other or really hate each other. That's one of the things I'm most looking forward to with the merge. We'll come back to that topic at the end here, but the I if I would were to predict any alliance stuff, I think Caleb and Emily and Kelly, those three together, if Caleb is like, these are the two people I've actually really want to be working with, and I think Emily will attempt a has strong loyalty to Caleb and will attempt to be like, do you want to join this new thing I've kind of joined or do you not? And he'll be like, I've kind of got Kelly, and Kelly, like you said, the Bello tribe like isn't really, none of them are working together at this point. Like Katura and Kelly maybe, but like I think Kelly referenced earlier, like wasn't even, she's like in the girls thing on that was on in the girls alliance on their tribe, but also was just like it was one of those I'm saying yes to everything situations. So I could see a situation where for an episode or two, Caleb, Emily, Kelly becomes like the power trio and becomes then the big target, but is like the focal point of
The
the
merge.
first half of the merge. And it's whether
Yeah.
people can get them out or they can, build such a bigger group to make a long run. I hope that's true because those are my three favorites, and I would be thrilled if those three took over the entire game and were here for the long haul. But he who is not is Brando, and it sucks. He's one of the people we didn't get to really like know almost at all
Yeah.
because of the situation of it always being Lulu, and so I came into the season thinking I was going to really like him. I liked him from everything we saw, but he definitely did not receive, a ton of screen time because of the situation that he found himself in of going home the first time he ever went to a tribal, but that being
Yeah.
in the fifth episode. Any closing thoughts on Brando?
I liked him. Same with you. I wish I would have got to see him a bit more. What I saw of him, I liked. What I read about him preseason, I also liked. He seemed to have a good handle on the game. It was just a matter of when, by the time that he got to Tribal, he wasn't with the alliance that he had built on Bello. Because if Bello would have gone, I don't think that he would have been in any
No, he was
trouble
that
because
nice
he and
swing
Kelly were
spot.
in the middle.
Yep,
And if he would have made the merge, I would say that Kelly would be more likely to link back up with Brando
yeah,
than to link back up with Kendra, for example.
for sure.
So I think that that's where it really hurt him. Um, in this day and age, I don't really know if we can say. I'd like to see them play again because I'm so used to saying it on the challenge, where it's more likely that they'll come back. If he comes back, I'd be stoked, um, but we'll see.
Yeah. All right, let's hand out some awards. Starting with best quote or line of the episode, I believe we have both revealed our number one pick, mine being the 70% protein, pause 30% poop from Brando. What was yours? Was from Caleb, correct?
Yeah,
Read that
it's
to me again.
if you can't bend your knee to your enemies, it doesn't matter what you do; they'll see you coming a mile away.
So one strategy, one funny. Love it. Those are both deserving winners and nominees. What about your favorite moment of the episode?
I simply wrote, Bruce does a thing, we get a Katura confessional.
Love it. Love it. Very deserving. I'm going with the opening fire scene because again, I just thought the like filmmaking kind of nerd in me was just like this was
Yeah,
so unbelievably, the moment would have been good no matter what, but the way they were able to shoot it and edit it just made it, I mean, awesome. It was so well done. So that was my top one. Best gameplay for you of the week. Who made the best strategic move and or gameplay?
um, I'm gonna go with Austin for not pushing hard for the food, as well as Austin for understanding that what's going to seal the deal with Emily is actually telling her what the advantage is.
Okay. I like that. I'm with you on the Austin. It was extremely smart in the moment to come around on the food thing and realize that like Kelly was kind of giving him the room to like, do you
Yeah.
want to argue against us, or do you want to like realize I'm about to say that we're doing the other thing? So that was very good for him. I would say the best gameplay to me was I had kind of forgotten that Caleb still had the one like little bit of info he could share. And
Yeah,
I
me
think
too, actually.
he ultimately, it was good of him to slow play and like slow feed the info he has to all of these new people. And I, personally, not just because she's my winner's pick, but I do think as far as his read of who I should, kind of choose out of all of these people to, he gave it a day or two and has decided this is the person I feel the best about like fully confiding in and trying to make a true alliance with. And I think he chose the best that he could have. So I'm gonna give it to him for how he handled his info and for the selection of Kelly as his top alliance mate.
Totally valid.
What about the opposite then, the worst gameplay of the episode?
So, despite the fact that it ended up working out fine for him, Drew completely shooting down Brando as like savagely as he did, and just like no wiggle room, no like you will. It's basically saying, I will never work with you. It doesn't matter if we make the merge, I'm not working with you. Instead of just like, even if he thought that he was eventually going to vote Brando out if they lost, like, just say, yeah, sure, that's something to consider, and then move on. And the other one is just Katura getting caught with her idol search. Although she did do very nicely, and I only noticed on the second watch, where Kaleb yells Katura, and as she turns around, she drops the stick. So she dropped it in line with her leg. And it was only because I saw her release her hand that I noticed that she had. So props for the slick move, but also like she got caught. And
Yeah,
then
I
was like,
just
papaya?
Uh, I just if you get caught looking for an idol, I don't see why it's just be like, yeah, I was looking.
Yeah.
I came back to the camp and you guys were all gone. So like, yeah, I looked
So I
like,
thought you were I thought you were looking, so I started
yeah,
looking.
and or just like, wouldn't you guys have all looked too? You were left alone. Like I didn't sneak off on my own. I was left alone, and
Yeah.
so whatever. I didn't find anything because it is the trying to play it off is the what makes them all think she found something versus
Yeah.
I think if you just are like, oh damn it, like this is embarrassing. But yes, I was looking. I did not find anything. Here's my
Yep.
stick.
Here's my stick, here are
Just
my empty pockets.
you know, pro tip: use a stick. Cobwebs are in all the holes that you were going to want to look at if you're looking for an idol.
Yeah.
I Austin's lie was bad. Again, I felt like I wouldn't believe that at all, his delivery of it, but I would probably give it because it ended up, more or less costing him. It might have happened this way anyways, but Brando's mishandling his communication with Emily and lying about who proposed what to Drew because it
Right.
didn't make any sense why he wouldn't just say to Emily the same thing he says to Drew of, "Hey, it seems like you're leaning towards their side. I get it. I kind of want to work with them too. And I'm feeling like it's me or Kendra, and I'm okay with it being Kendra if you guys will
Yeah.
have me." And like why he can't tell her the same
I
thing
suppose,
versus
yeah.
having to like tell her, well, Drew wants Kendra, not me. It just, yeah, that didn't make sense. So Brando unfortunately gets my award for worst gameplay on the one he goes out. Who is your MVP of the episode? Can we keep the streak going? We started so far apart the first 2 weeks on
I
you
know.
going game heavy, me going entertainment heavy. We found common ground for 2 weeks in a row now. Well, do we have a third?
I don't know, man. I have to. This
My
one was
nominees
hard.
are Drew gets a nomination for certain. He's on my ballot somewhere because he was very entertaining and very prevalent. And Emily definitely gets a nomination as always, pretty much.
Yeah.
I Kelly was fairly involved all the way through on both strategy and entertainment side of things. And then, I mean, Brando's super involved, obviously, as the person who goes home always is pretty super involved. Um, those would probably be the people I'm thinking, at least
And
as nominees.
actually, yeah, sorry, I did write it down. I was like, I didn't write it down, but I did. I picked Kelly as the MVP because she had so many irons in the fire, like in every element, and it felt like this was the episode where we got almost the Kelly edit, where it was like she was helping out at camp with Jake, and then she was able to have like those relationships, and then she had the conversation with Caleb, where she gains the information, and then she has like the slight downturn where she got it looked like she got forced to sit out because which was kind of weird and I would love to know what happened there. But then she got to go on the journey as a result. She made it so that she didn't have to break the tie. And like she did everything right.
Yeah,
And she had many opportunities to like falter, but she didn't.
I agree that this did feel like if Kelly were to go on to win or even make final three, this would be the episode to look back of like
Yeah.
where they let us know Kelly was an incredibly strong player in this game and we got a full version and view of her. Um she's in second for me, so we do not keep the streak going.
We'll get back there.
Emily's the MVP again. She's so entertaining. It's unbelievable. It was the
She was
only
my
thing
second.
it is the only thing entertaining to me about tribal council other than just finding out the vote, but like was her being like, I don't care about voting people out. Like, come on, people, like get with the program. We're playing Survivor. And I thought she, was the swing vote and everyone talking to her the way she cornered Drew. And she had a couple other little things again through the alien thing with like
Yep.
random thing that comes up and just yeah, I liked everything she was bringing to the table again, but a much more even distribution this episode where I do feel
Yes.
like there's 3-4 people that were kind of like the stars and they're maybe slowly shifting towards like Drew. This is like the third episode or in a row or so that like Drew is very prevalent in a lot of stuff. So I'm feeling like he's getting a lot of screen time. And then Caleb obviously remains getting a lot of screen time as well. So Kelly and Emily take home an MVP.
Boom.
And we head to see where those MVPs fall on our power rankings. So my power rankings changed a little bit here. I'm interested to find out if yours changed at all. Neither of us had Brando on them, if I remember correctly from last week.
Correct.
So we didn't lose anyone. So good on us for being smart because we
Yes.
had a couple weeks in a row where one of us lost someone out of our top five.
And my
Uh,
winner pick.
Yes, and your winner pick. I was trying not to mention that, but that did happen quite early on. Mine's looking good as ever. You go, Kelly. Who do you got in your top five right now?
So I have a top six
Okay,
because I
I'll
can.
take it.
Um, Caleb, Kelly, D, Emily, Austin, and then Jake has just sort of like risen just under the surface there.
Okay, I like it, and I think say that again one more time because I think we're one off as always.
Caleb, Kelly, D, Emily, Austin, and then Jake.
Okay, if we count I have 4 of the same as you if we count your full 6. So we're kind of still in a similar boat.
Yeah, Jake can be for next week if he makes it up there so that we can
Yeah.
maintain our stride and so I can follow the rules set out of pick five.
I have 2 new entrants into my top 5 and then the top of my list did rotate a little bit. I'm convinced Emily's going to win and she's number 1 on my power rankings now. I think she's going to win.
If she gets to tribal, like if
Gonna
she
be
gets
the
to
best.
final tribal, I want to say it's like game set match.
Yeah, who the hell's gonna argue against this woman? She's just gonna rip anyone she's up against to shreds. Even if they could put Jake and Katura would be like, "By the way, everyone, I'll tell you now, I'm a lawyer," and Emily would be like, "It doesn't matter, it doesn't matter.
Go home. I got this.
Lawyers on both sides. I will still out argue the hell out of both of you right now." So I have Emily number 1. I have Kelly and Caleb number 2 and 3, and again, I do envision that 3
Yeah.
becoming a trio and becoming the dominant trio of the season. And then my 2 new entrants though, I have Julie and Jake because I think Julie now, I'm a little nervous about D, who I've continually had
Yep.
at or near or at the top of my power rankings. That of that group of the Reba folks, Drew, Austin, D, and Julie. and J Maya and Sifu, respectfully. I'm kind of feeling the best about Julie right now out of all of them, so I'm moving her up. And then I also too am feeling good about where Jake stands. Of
Yeah.
he's the one in the bellow that as we've said, none of them are totally working together, but everyone likes him seemingly, and he has positive relationships with everyone. And I think we'll be really good at continuing to make them in a merge that we're going to get next week. So I've got Emily, Kelly, Caleb, Julie, and Jake, and feel really good about that top three becoming that's my biggest prediction for the rest of the season is that trio
Yeah.
of Emily, Caleb, and Kelly are going to be the faces of this season. And whether they both all three go out over the next 3-4 weeks because they're too powerful right away in the merge or not, I think they're going to be the Ricard and Shan type of situation of
Yeah.
this season, where it's like those are the three players. Are like one of them's going to definitely be the Jesse of this season, that is like probably should have won, but we got to get him out finally here at the 4 or 5 or
Yeah.
so and whatnot. But speaking of predictions and or wishes, we'll end here. uh we see that it's a merge, or we see them on the same beach and the word merge is used in the next week on. Do
Yes.
you think we are going to get a true immediate merge this season, or do you think we are going to get some sort of transition episode in two team, one of you's safe one and has made the merge, is one of you's not, type of challenge situation where we've had, I think, three times in of the
Yeah.
4 modern seasons, all but one of them, right?
Yeah. They've cleaned it up a bit where they don't say that you've won immunity and then take it away, because that didn't go over well
Because
in
yeah, people
41.
didn't like that.
Rightfully so. If you win something and then it is taken away from you, you did not win it.
Savagery's fun.
Yeah. I don't think that it will be a straight up merge. I don't know whether it's necessarily going to be like half or safe, half or not. I almost want to say it's going to be like the season where they put everybody on the same beach, never said merge, and then Sheehan was like going around making alliances with the new people because she hated her old tribe, and then they got to the challenge, and then Jeff was like, "I didn't say merge. You're still on different tribes." And I was like, "Oh shit!" So I can see that playing out, and the reason that I have that vibe is because all of the Beware idols say when everyone is on the same beach. They don't say when the tribes have merged.
Hmm.
And I feel like that's intentional.
Yep, that definitely they think this stuff too, as you referenced earlier. They have the massive binder with all the rules and all the contingencies and everything, and Jeff's
Yeah.
always got it playing in his head. That's a very good pickup by you. That like all of those advantages say on the same beach. We should take that as that it will at least be some sort of 1 round transition of some kind.
Yeah.
I definitely I definitely don't want what happened last season to happen again with Matt ends up going home because of that was after the merge, but again, like of the reshuffling into like now you're in three little groups again and this, that, and the
Hope you
other.
didn't
And
forget your backpack.
yeah, just like I don't want any of that. I'm
No.
okay with your maybe two teams and one of you wins and makes the merge and the other half you're up for it. So we have one vote that isn't all 13 of you.
Yeah.
I'm fine with that. And I think that's, kind of interesting and can become like a staple thing of like there's a kind of 1 round transitional period here. Because is 13 a lot to go to a merge with?
It's a weird number.
Is that their specific number they typically go to?
It's usually like 12 or 10 or something like
Yeah.
that. Like it's usually an even split.
Because they
Um,
reference 13. I only remember 13 are left because they say it in the next week on, as someone says like 13
yeah.
people on a beach together is like kind of chaotic and crazy.
Yeah.
So okay.
Understandable. But yeah,
Yeah.
that's my think. That's what I'm thinking, is
Yeah,
that
it's your
it's not
think.
a true
That was the
merge.
think that
Yeah,
you
it's my
had. Yeah,
think.
it was the think.
That's the think I got.
Who do you think the merge helps the most, and who do you think the merge hurts the most?
I think that Emily and Caleb become hot commodities when they hit the merge because they don't necessarily have set alliances. They are still sort of free agents, even though they've had conversations with a bunch of other people. This is where the two groups have to fight to get them because Bello is now down a member. Reba still has their full tribe. So this is their opportunity to like solidify grabbing those two people, because even if like Bello takes in Kaleb and then Reba takes in Emily, they still have more and they can just pick them off. So they need both of those people. Um, I think I think that the merge is going to hurt people. Like, I'm actually more worried about Julie than you are, because I feel the survivor, like, to take the power away from somebody, you take out their closest ally situation, whereas they might think that D has something, so instead they're just going to take out Julie. Um, but we'll see how that plays out. I mean, we're noticing who are like on the bottom of the tribes, like your Bruce or Kendra or your like J Maya or Sifu. But in game, I don't know that that's as strongly perceived. So it'll be interesting to see, like, once everybody hits the beach, how the dynamics shift and whether your J Mayas and your Sifus are gonna stick with Reba, because Sifu knows that somebody lied to him. He doesn't know who. So that puts distrust in three people. He wasn't working with Drew and Austin anyway. So
Yeah,
he's
he's gone.
kind yeah, like
He's
he's either gone because he's voted out,
Oh no, yeah, he's like a
because
free agent. Like he's not
yeah,
working with anyone from Reba. No
or
chance.
yeah, like he has no reason to work with Reba. So that's another member. Like, he leaves Reba, then that puts three in the middle
Hmm.
and even numbers on either side.
Yeah, he's 100% not a free agent that is unwilling to sign with his former team. And I think it Caleb is the one that it could go either way with. It should help him, but it also could be the moment everyone realizes, wait, all of us love this guy. Like, what's going on here? So I think he's the one that's maybe the most interesting of like it could go both ways. It I feel like it hurts Jay Maya maybe the most of everyone because
Yeah.
yes, the folks that are kind of on the bottom could become the swing votes right away, but oftentimes it might take a vote or two until it starts to become target the best people or the biggest threats. And she was just, has spent a few rounds now where like I actually got in with these other two women that
Yeah.
originally, unbeknownst to me, I was not in with. And now, right as we have our plan thwarted, I'm building extra trust because I'm the one willing to lie about one of you lying and voting for Sifu, whatever, and like kind of get in right then. They get their other people back and are probably going to be like, nope, J Maya, like you're good. You can go lie for us if you want, but we
Yeah.
don't we don't need you. So I feel like it's gonna hurt her for sure. And I think it's gonna hurt Bruce because
Yeah.
I think we've been set up to assume that Katura Bruce is going to be this season's Gabler and her name Ellie.
Ellie.
And like someone's going to have to throw someone under a bus. And Katura seems like she's going to be ready and willing the
Yeah.
first moment she gets to pull like five people in a group and be like, so Bruce is exhausting and sucks to live on a beach with. I just want to let you know that you're going to hate him and we should just vote him out before you all have to go through what I've been going through for the last 10 days. So I think Bruce is in, and I think Katura is likable enough, and everyone else will be able to back her up now of like, no, this isn't some like petty squabble. She's spot on. She was maybe first, but like, yeah, it's kind of annoying. So I think it hurts Bruce for sure. That is my
Yeah,
best guess.
totally. And he's a stronger he's perceived to be a stronger guy. So he's going to potentially be trouble when you get two individual immunities as well, which is what you're also starting to look at. And if you can find somebody who's at the bottom of their tribe, have people that are on their tribe that are willing to vote them out and going to be strong in challenges, then he's like the ideal merge boot.
Yeah, first
Um,
couple boots where you're trying to build a
yeah,
little chemistry and trust with a bigger alliance before you start looking inward or looking at the biggest threats. And yeah, but eventually, obviously, it's going to happen at some point. Maybe it won't be the first one, and especially if they don't do individual challenges yet. But if Caleb continues, I mean, the if anyone's ever been worried about someone having a run of individual immunity wins, like Caleb has performed the best at every single challenge thus far. I think we can unequivocally say, even though it's kind of hard to stand out and like clearly been the one that performed the best in the different random things they've been doing. But
In the losing tribe.
yeah, it's like, yes, he got to play basketball a couple times and he's clearly plays basketball, but like he also like goes through the obstacle course the fastest. He shoots the things the fastest. He's like hasn't done the puzzle, but has seemed to provide good coaching and calm and everything with puzzles and stuff. Like he seems like he's going to be really damn good and really hard to beat. We haven't seen him balance yet, which
True.
much balance and endurance are the most often seen once we get to the individual side of things. So maybe there's a weakness there or just an averageness there from him of that, because there is a bit less obstacle course style stuff and random athletic type of things for him to do, but he will eventually be the threat. Final question for you then, Tony. Who goes home next week? We haven't actually been making these big bold predictions yet, so we'll try one here. If you had to guess, out of the 13 that are left and are going to join together on a beach next week, who do you think goes home next?
Well, I'm rocking my Lulu buff, so I'm definitely not saying Caleb or Emily. Um, and this is just so everyone is aware, despite the fact that Lulu went to tribal every single time. I bought this before they did the tribe swap. It just didn't arrive until after the tribe swap happened. But this is
Yeah,
original Lulu.
you're Lulu, not a Nulu.
Yep, exactly. Well, I do love people on Nulu, and a lot of my favorite players actually ended up on that team.
Mhm.
I am still original Lulu represent. I think Bruce is going. I think that Bruce is going to catch enough heat. He's the returning player. Emily threw enough on that fire in the very
Oh, we
first
are
episode.
finally going to get that interaction. Yes,
Yeah.
I forgot.
So between Emily, Katura, and not only that, but Caleb is close with both of them, so he can bridge that gap. If they're just trying to come to consensus on a number and it's already going to be Bello, it very easily could be Bruce if they can't figure out how to get the upper hand on the numbers.
Yeah, all three girls are going to be in for Bruce. Kelly, who is Bruce's number one, still to hit to Bruce's mind and not to Kelly's, is going to be. Even Jake has said in the past, I believe he said in that conversation that I've referenced a couple times now, where I liked how he slow played it, but said like, I'm kind of working with Bruce or have a good relationship, but like I would be open to voting for him. I'm not like locked in with him yet. So good pick. I'm gonna go. I think J Maya is gonna go home next. Which is why I kind of said she was the one I think is hurt the most. Is could end up on the bottom, but you do have me a little bit convinced that it would be a Bello before it's a Reba. But it ultimately comes down to we do get a glimpse of a course for the next challenge that did look two team setup to it. So I'm guessing it is two teams somehow, some way, and that maybe that means half are up. So a lot of it also rides on what half is up and is everyone voting and how many people of the half that are up are from whatever tribe. So a lot to look forward to. Thank you everyone for sticking with us I think we have reversed course. We had been going down in time every episode and I think we went back up in time. So it's a long season. We've got a long ways to get to where we have 1 hour episode. That is the
There's a
goal.
lot of stuff.
And until then, they will be 2 hour episodes. So, so be it. It's a good season. There's lots to talk about, and it's too much fun to skip over anything. So, yeah, we covered what's coming up on either pod earlier at the beginning of the episode. So make sure go follow, subscribe here. Go follow, subscribe, Challenge Fandom. Links to everyone's Instagrams and whatnot are in the show notes. So follow that. And we will be back next week, as always, sometime between Thursday and Monday following the episode. Not sure when it'll be on this one, but it'll be sometime in that time frame, right, Tony?
Absolutely. I think was this one of the days that we hadn't done yet? Sunday?
Yeah, we've hit a Thursday, we've hit a Friday, we've hit a Saturday, Sunday, and Monday. We've hit all 5 days.
We've done all
our
of them.
5 day window.
Yes,
we did it. All right, which day? Take votes, everyone. Which day will be the first to be used twice for recording? Who knows? Could be any of them. Wild and crazy times here. All right. Well, thank you everyone for listening. We will be back next week, and we look forward to talking to you then.